What is freestyle music, you ask? Well, I am going to tell you my freestyle music beginnings.
Let's get started.
Welcome, you tuned into Adelante with Arlene, and I am Arlene. And by the way, Adelante means to go forward. I want to give you DJs a little quick history of my freestyle music beginnings. Many of you have said that you don't know who I am. Well, you can't know who I am because some of you weren't even born when I started doing music that you know today as freestyle music. That's right. When I started recording, I was 19 years old, living in New York City in the Bronx. There was nothing called freestyle music, it was called Latin hip hop. Mm-hmm. Well, before many of the groups that are existing now, much later on, when the radio station Hot 103 started playing what is known today as freestyle music, myself and my two other members of the group, three girls, Leather and Lace, recorded in 1984 a song that my friend wrote for me on the stoop of my mother's house. That's the stairs of the house of my mom and my dad, where I was living in the Bronx in Castle Hill. That song, guys, is called Tender Heart. Tender Heart today is on Tommy Boy's classic CD, Volume 1. Go check it out, DJs. I'm about to give you a freestyle 101 on freestyle recording artist Arlene, also known as Leather and Lace. My first song, Tender Heart, wasn't only my first song, but it was me who sang the lead on that song. I sang it with a group called Leather and Lace, in which I named back in 1984. I used to wear a lot of leather and lace. Does that make sense? Yeah. As a result, I got signed shortly after to a recording contract and was asked after recording the record, was I wanting to have a three-girl group or did I want to go solo? Well, I was pretty shy, something I'm not now, and I was eager to have two other group members with me. That was Larida and Mara Resto. We formed a group known as today as Leather and Lace. When we started, all this, there was no radio stations that was playing anything as known today as freestyle music. What we did have and still do were the DJs, who are now, like myself, decades older than many of you who are listening right now. Those DJs were the ones who reported to radio and reported and played our records over and over and over again in the clubs and made it popular to the generation in which I am from. I am about probably 4 decades older than any of you that are listening at this moment and DJs that are fairly new in this business. So let me let you know. Leather and Lace came before many who came after. Did not make us any better or make them any less better. It is what it is. I can only speak for my own history. Leather and Lace performed in many clubs. Without radio play, we literally were top billed and had show after show. Many videos are posted here on this platform by my husband, whom cuts and snips some of these, like Copacabana, 1018, even eventually before then was the Roxy. I mean, they changed names a lot of times, Palladium, and so much more. Leather and Lace performed in concerts outside in the beaches like Orchard Beach and all. Leather and Lace was constantly in Miami. Remember, New York did not have a radio station at that year, at that time, that ever played anything that is known today as freestyle music. It was all because of the club DJs that we were even known and have the fans that we have today. So keep in mind, Tender Heart wasn't the only song. Leather and Lace, with myself, went on to do Let Your Body Go. You probably never heard of that one, only if you're closer to my age. From there on, we went and we did, with Lottie as lead, Rock Me, Shake Me, Rock Me, Shake Me. After that, in 1988, I went solo. And guess what, guys? That's right. How many years later? Then there was Hot 103. But when I went solo as Arlene, who I am, The only radio station that played my record on heavy rotation was a predominantly R&B station known as WBLS in New York City. Myself and one other artist that was considered legitly at that time freestyle genre were being played heavy rotation on a station that was predominantly R&B music. We weren't R&B, but we already started breaking some barriers. Now let me school you, young ones. Not only was I able to have that type of heavy rotation with "We Can Work It Out, Baby, I Know That We Can," my first solo record, but I was also able to have top 10 every 4 hours being played on what was known then as Hot 103. Hot 103 became the radio station in which all freestyle from where I started all the way on to the later years was being played constantly. At that point, as I mentioned, it was 1988 and I was playing and singing and performing We Can Work It Out, and now solo, also some of the Tender Heart, which I was the soloist on. A little more schooling for you all. So, who is Arlene? Arlene is the pioneer and part of a history where many also became and are a part of that history to the present of what is known today as freestyle music. I'm not upset about doing this video because how could you know me if you are probably only in your 20s or maybe 30s? And I was 19 when I first recorded. So my husband thought it would be a really good idea to let you know who I am while you're listening to this music. So we, as Leather and Lace, performed all over constantly without radio play, guys, back then because of the support, again, of the DJs from the clubs. That's right, and getting paid. After that, when I went solo, I performed in every club you can possibly name. Then there was a time, probably back in the 90s, later 90s, that I went again and recorded with another record label, and I got signed to Cutting Records. And I did a song which I love dearly, which infused the R&B sounds with freestyle music. And that song is called Why You Wanna Hurt Me? Why you wanna hurt me, boy? You see, I believe that a lot of the music that was produced for me by Tommy Musto, as well as David Sanchez and others, was ahead of its time in regards to infusing music of two different genres together. Now, that could be good or that could be bad. Take it as it is. But the DJs, and then now the radio stations, were playing again what is known today as freestyle music. After the 90s, I got signed to a record label in Chicago, where I worked out there and was going to transition into fully R&B music, but I ended up doing a test press called Band of Gold, a remake of a very old record that I wasn't born when the song was written, nor were you. And I was decided not to do the song, but the test press leaked somehow, and some very exclusive DJs got a hold of it. And they paid a lot of money, some of them, for it. So who's Arlene? Arlene is part of the beginning stages of what is known today as freestyle music. I'm talking about myself and the third party, right? Because I think I need to inform you that there is a whole world out there of trailblazers that you may not see performing now, but had a lot to do with setting a foundation for all the rest that came years later. I performed with many people. In 1988, I remember well, I skipped because in 1989, I also put out another record called Who Will It Be? But in 1988-89, I performed with the New Kids on the Block for Z100 and many other shows. So who is Arlene? Arlene is a freestyle music artist. Always and forever will be a lover of freestyle music. Arlene, myself, now has, as you can see, faith, God, moved onward. Seguir adelante, as I say on my YouTube channel, that I'm also putting this on in my podcast. And I do a show called Adelante, which means go forward with Arlene, where I have several shows. One that, yes, you get to know some of your freestyle favorites. And we talk about things that you would never know about them. Thanks for this time. And remember that the ones that you're playing only, which are friends of mine, aren't the only ones who actually had a part to do with the creation and the beginnings of this music. I'm so grateful to my friends out there that are still continuously performing and have chosen to do so. I am excited for them. I love them all and I support them. So thank you for letting me tell you who's Arlene, freestyle music in my life, and how it all started. Please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Please consider subscribing to my TikTok and go check me out on all my platforms and listen to my podcast and let me inspire you and let me share some of my deeper self with you so that you get to know me a little better. I love you all and I thank you all DJs for your constant support, and I'm looking for the support of your younger DJs now that you know who I am. Until next time, sigue adelante and keep freestyle music alive.
Sigue adelante.
Thank you for watching Adelante with Arlene. Don't forget to share my videos.
Jesus.